afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Notre Dame Stadium.
Zibikowski trying to get to the outside. He has blockers in front. Tom Zibikowski, Malone the beat, shakes him off to the 5 and a touchdown.
And now it is down. It is over. And the Irish have knocked off number one Clemson.
Brady Quinn looking, pump fakes, he rolls to the near side, throws it, it's caught by Samaja, inside the 20, inside the 10, he's going in, Notre Dame has scored!
Jones is the back, he's got it again, and Jones a lot of room, Tony Jones makes a cut, gets a block, and scores! Is that the play that will seal the playoff bid for Fighting Irish?
Welcome to Sons of Saturday Irish. I'm Tyler Bojack, and I'm here with Luke Smith. We're recording this on Sunday morning, the day after Notre Dame went into Chapel Hill and defeated the North Carolina Tar Heels by a final score of 45-32. With the win, the Irish are back to 500 heading into the bye week, and I can tell you the general mood between the two of us and probably the rest of the fan base is a lot happier today than it has been in Sunday so far this season. Before we get started here, though, please like and subscribe below if you're watching on YouTube, and subscribe, rate, and review if you're listening to the podcast. Now, we're going to do some ad reads, and then we'll be right back.
This episode of Sons of Saturday is supported by DraftKings. The NFL action is in full swing here at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. We're talking touchdowns, big plays, and even bigger wins. New customers can bet just $5 on any NFL team to win and get $200 in free bets if they do. If that's not enough, everyone can boost their winnings with DraftKings stepped-up same-game parlays. Right now, for every leg you add, you can boost your winnings up to 100%. With payouts bigger than ever, why bet on football anywhere else? To make things even sweeter, you can throw down on stepped-up same-game parlays once per game day all season long. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code SOS to get $200 in free bets if your team wins when you place a $5 bet on any football game. That's code SOS only at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details.
This episode is sponsored by Haas Company, a lifestyle brand that's about being the best version of yourself. Be the Haas. The Haas lives life without reservations, without doubt, and ready to answer the call each and every day. Check out their website at bethehaas.com and use promo code SONS for 15% off on your next order. Check them out.
This episode is also supported by Rhoback. Shop game-changing active wear with Rhoback for those who crave activity. Use the promo code SONSND, that's SONSND, to get 20% off your next order in the entire store at Rhoback.com. But we encourage all of our listeners to check out the Shamrock Polo, which would look great on Irish fans everywhere. That's promo code SONSND at RHOBACK.com.
Okay, Luke, how are you feeling the morning after Notre Dame's best game of the season so far?
I feel like I should have bet more than I did. To be honest, I was called a fool for saying the amount of money I wanted to put on Notre Dame, and so I halved it. And I guess I have some really shitty friends because I could have made a lot more money yesterday. But yeah, I feel good. All things considered, like you said, best game of the season so far for the Irish. It doesn't matter that North Carolina's defense looks like Walker Cullinan throwing against Connor Shields in the Legacy parking lot. It's still something, and now Vegas means something, and that's really that all I'm happy about.
Yeah, I went into this game thinking, okay, I felt like Notre Dame should win the game, but I was pretty worried just on the basis of if Notre Dame loses this game, like let's be honest, 1-3 is really, really bad, and I figured the offense has looked so boring so far to date. If they can't move it on this North Carolina defense, then we're going to be in some real trouble. And then you start thinking, like, what does the rest of the season look like? Is 5 wins even possible?
Well, and that first drive, too, also was not very inspiring.
No,
when
it was
Pine
not.
Couldn't throw the ball over the offensive line.
Yeah, 2 batted balls in the opening drive of the game. That was a really discouraging start. But, hey, they were able to figure it out, and then the rest of the game, they were just carving up that North Carolina defense. So we are going to break down this game. We'll talk about all the really good things we saw from Notre Dame, but I feel like at the beginning we should probably address to take all of this with a grain of salt because that North Carolina defense, I know statistically they're at the very bottom of every statistical metric there is.
But they're even worse.
Yeah, and somehow they're even worse than we thought. It's just something to point out. But again, like considering what Notre Dame has shown up to this point on offense, I don't think we should be picky. We should be really happy and pleased with the offensive performance because it was really encouraging. There's a lot of different things that we could talk about that we really liked. So right off the bat, what was most impressive to you on the offensive side of the ball?
I mean, it turns out, to quote Ari Wasserman, stars matter. You give the ball to Chris Tyree and Michael Mayer, they're going to make things happen. Like, get the ball to 5 stars, and good things happen. And that's kind of what happened yesterday. Honestly, Mayer should have had another touchdown if Pine just lobs it to him. Instead, it was an incomplete pass on 3rd down. And frankly, there were a couple balls. I'm trying to be positive. There are a couple balls that Mayer just made incredible plays on that just were not easy catches. But like I said, like you get those guys the ball and good things happen, and we started to lean into that, and I think that's a really good thing.
And you're right. Michael Mayer did make some really good plays that, to anyone else, you're like, wow, Pine kind of got bailed out. But I don't think that rule necessarily applies when you're throwing to Michael Mayer. And to give Pine credit, those throws, he made sure that Michael Mayer was the only person who could catch them. So Pine had a really, really good game, a bounce-back game. He finished 24 of 34 for 289 yards, 3 touchdowns, and most importantly, probably 0 interceptions. And the difference in play between what we saw in the first half of Kyle, which might have been the worst half of football that anyone has ever had ever, and I know I don't want to keep harping on it, but we all saw it. We know what happened.
The first quarter yesterday was pretty bad, too. So
yeah, but
we didn't score in the first quarter.
True. Collectively, the Notre Dame offense is not known for their hot starts this season, but he really did calm down. He made some plays. I think it all started to turn for him after he had that scramble on 3rd down where he got the first. He looked dead. It kind of looked like Ian Book back there where he's very elusive and then just scrambles out and just sort of just crushes the defense getting that first down. After that, it looks like he gained some confidence. It also helped that Tommy Rees called. Maybe if it wasn't the best game of his career, it's certainly up there. Guys were getting wide open on that North Carolina defense, so he made it really easy on Pine. But we have to give Pine a lot of credit there for how he performed, especially after the week before. And I think as a fan, now you can kind of look at Pine and go, okay, they can win with this guy. They can sort of build off him and what he brings to the table.
Yeah, no, he played well yesterday, and definitely gives you some confidence moving forward. Like we said, we don't really know what that looks like against a defense that's actually a real defense. But, yeah, there's definitely things you can build on there, and just hopefully I thought it was a confidence booster for him. I thought yesterday must have been a confidence booster for Logan Diggs, who had really been awful to this point in this season, and he had some nice plays yesterday. So I just think all in all, like regardless of what you think of North Carolina, which we clearly don't think a lot of them on defense, it's still a place that you can build from.
Yeah, and Logan Diggs, one of 3 running backs, all of whom finished with over 100 yards of total offense. We saw
first time since 1996, at least that's happened.
That's honestly kind of surprising, I feel like, because we've rotated a lot of running backs through the years.
They don't usually get 100 yards each, though.
That's true. I would think I was most surprised by Audric Estime is the first Notre Dame running back to have 100-plus yards or 100-plus rushing yards in a game since Kyron did last year against North Carolina when he had 199. I don't know. I guess I thought...
And 90-plus of them came on one run.
Exactly. I think you said it before. We should play North Carolina every game.
Yeah, it's become the most fun game on the schedule. Mac Brown looks like he's shitting his pants on the sideline. He's like an old grandpa just losing his mind at the officials, which, to be fair, was not a great pass interference call. But they had done it 3 other times prior to that, so it was bound to happen, I guess. And just a very undisciplined North Carolina team. They had some absolutely moronic penalties yesterday. I mean, Tony Grimes is bitch made. Like, there's just no 2 ways about it. When he takes a swipe on the sideline, it's like, what are you doing? You're supposed to be this 5-star corner, and you're just a bitch.
Wasn't he the guy who started college when he was like 16
he
or something?
reclassified.
He was extremely young when he started, but then he started as a true freshman.
Yeah,
you would think that he's matured in the 3 years since, but he just hasn't. I don't really know what to make of North Carolina right now because they've recruited at a high level since Mac Brown came back, and honestly, if it weren't for Sam Howell being the player that he is, they would be even worse than what they've shown in the past 3 years. And they've been pretty disappointing every year. And on one hand, you could look at it like, okay, it's North Carolina football. What are your expectations? It's a basketball school. And I get that, but they certainly have the resources to compete in the top of the ACC. And so far under Mac Brown, it's just been disappointment after disappointment because they get these really talented players and then they get on campus and then they don't really look any different from year 1 to year 3 or 4.
No, and I mean, I don't know how Gene Chizik is still coaching college football. That was
he has a ring.
Okay, so I was going to say that. And actually, you texted it, but the trivia question yesterday were like, who are the 5 active coaches with national championships? And I was like, well, actually, it should really be 6 because he's still coaching college football. He's just not a head coach anymore. And they didn't include him on that list, but that was funny. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. They can't figure it out. I don't really care. Like I said, I would like to play them a lot because it's been fun the last couple of years.
Yeah, the second half of that 2020 game was awesome. Maris Leofau sort of had his coming out party, and they just sacked Sam Howell every time. Last year was fun because it was just such a back-and-forth game. There's some awesome plays.
Jack Cohn ran for a touchdown last year.
Yeah. Kyron had maybe one of the most exciting plays that we've ever seen from a Notre Dame running back. It was a really entertaining game, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. For the first time this year, I felt like I was having a lot of fun watching Notre Dame, which is sad that it took
100%.
to week 4.
I tweeted that exactly. Like, I'm having fun watching Notre Dame football. Again, that had not been the case this entire season.
Yeah, because I wouldn't describe the Cal game as fun.
No, that was terrible.
Even when they won, it was like, oh my God, like that's what it takes.
Yeah, I don't know. And you see things going around college football this week. USC looks pretty gettable. So does Clemson. Like, hey, let's not talk ourselves into 10-2, but let's talk ourselves into 10-2.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm at 10-2 just yet. I think right now, based on what we've seen, 9-3 is probably best case scenario. I'm not going to pick a loss yet, but we certainly made a ton of strides. And now, if Notre Dame could do that, what they showed, maybe not the ease in which they did it, in which they moved the ball against this North Carolina defense, but if they come out against BYU here in a couple weeks and really dominate the line of scrimmage like they did in the second half of the Cal game and throughout the North Carolina game, that's when I'll start to think like, okay, this is the team we heard about. Even though it's a backup quarterback, this team can realistically win out. I'm not there yet, but I feel like there were some signs in the North Carolina game that I can at least get behind that could eventually be a possibility.
Oh, 100%. I agree.
So, we talked about Drew Pine. We talked a little bit about the running backs. I think we have to talk about the offensive line because in a way, this felt like just vintage, dare I say, a Brian Kelly team where it was like, okay, Notre Dame sort of handled the whole game. I know that after the SMA fumble at the end and then the ensuing North Carolina touchdown, the final score doesn't tell the whole story, that how Notre Dame dominated this game from start to finish. But did it sort of feel like that to you? This is the Notre Dame team that we were sort of used to for the past 5 years.
Yeah, definitely. And that's good because it also, like I said on our last episode, it kind of built off the week before where they won a game that it was a really ugly game and they found a way to win it. So that's kind of a consistent theme now where they've showed some of those. Somebody's going to freak out, but the word traits, those traits are showing themselves again. So that's good to see.
Yeah, and to be honest, if this game had happened last year, I would have come out of it just like, okay, yeah. I actually probably would have been a little bit more annoyed with some of the stuff that was going on in the defense, but this is the style of play that Notre Dame, they built their foundation on. This is who they want to be. It's who Marcus Freeman, it's what Marcus Freeman has said he wants the team to look like. Now they actually have proof of concept. The offensive line looked really, really good. For this part, I don't even care there's North Carolina defense because they got pushed around by Marshall. Let's take what we can get here. The team.
Did Marshall lose again yesterday? I saw they were down.
Yeah, they lost. Yikes. They lost 7-16 to Troy.
Jesus fucking Christ.
Troy, sneaky though. They should have beat Appalachian State the week before. And
yeah, it's back-to-back weeks of losses to the Thundering Herd after the win herd round. Anyways, we're not trying to be negative here.
No, let's stick.
But I agree. That offensive line looked really good. And you know who else looked really good in the run game blocking was Eli Raridan, actually. And they've yet to target him, but Greg tweeted this out. He had some really nice blocks yesterday. And that's good to see because Kevin Bauman is done for the year. And so he's going to get a lot of time. And then we'll probably see some Holden stays too as well. But these young guys are going to get thrust into action here. And it was nice to see him to really dominate in the run blocking game like that.
Yeah, it was really encouraging to see because all of a sudden Notre Dame is kind of thin at tight end. Mitchell Evans is supposed to be back for the BYU game.
Freeman said he could, which really, I don't know what that means.
Yeah. Marcus Freeman is kind of taking after the Brian Kelly school of talking about injuries because earlier last week, I think he said Bauman got twisted up a little in practice, and then 3 days later, it's torn ACL out for
Maybe
the
he did, yeah, I don't know. How about the fact that he walked into the locker room and just said, "How about those Irish?" I love that line.
Yeah.
I like that's something that I'll probably say that in about 40 minutes when I go to Rinaldi's. But you don't expect the head coach to say that in the locker room.
No, it felt good to see. He was very excited and probably relieved, honestly, because I don't think he got that much satisfaction out of that.
Totally, and they always say, going on the road is the best medicine. You get away from all the distractions, and to get a road win, that's big. That's impressive.
It was impressive, and I think we mentioned in the last week, maybe they just needed to get on the road, like get away from South Bend especially after that Marshall game and everything.
I need to get away from South. I did 3 weekends in a row in South Bend. That was way too much for me, so exactly. I totally get it.
And that's coming from you. I thought that the reaction for the players, it really felt like, okay, finally. Like, it's been a really rough start to the season. Part of that is just the schedule, starting out at Ohio State is going to be a really tough task, and then a really disappointing loss following week. But then they really seem to get things right. I want to talk about the offensive line a little bit more, though, before we move on, because coming into the season, everyone expected that to be a strength for good reason. Look at who Notre Dame was bringing back and the potential of the tackles. And Joe Alt and Jarrett Patterson had another really strong game on the left side. So Jarrett Patterson, we can assume, is close to 100%, or at least he's playing like it, because that's becoming a pretty dominant side of the line. I think the right side looked better. Josh Lugg has been pretty inconsistent this year. Zeke Krell's been figuring it out in the interior. Blake Fisher looked like the player we hoped he would be this year, but Joe Alt and Jarrett Patterson, the left side, kind of reminds me of the days when Notre Dame would just go to the left side of the line, which is led by Mike McGlinchey and Quentin Nelson, and before them, the elite left side was Zach Martin and Chris Watt, where it's like, okay, Notre Dame, we need a couple yards. What are we going to do? It's just going to run to the left side. The whole team knows it. The defense knows it, but we're going to do it anyway. And this tandem, even though we know we're only going to have it with 1 year because Patterson's going to leave, this could be Notre Dame's identity going forward. Run to the left.
Yeah, I'm not going to go as far as you did. There's still a ways to go, but yeah, totally. I think they can definitely lean on that. Because I do think Joe Alt has been pretty good all year, and even though the rest of the offensive line has struggled at times, they're getting better now. I think he's probably been their best performer to date. And now that you get Patterson getting a little bit healthier, he's getting up there. So yeah, I totally agree. They can definitely lean into that identity.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they're there yet. That's why I said slightly poor man's version of Zach Martin and Chris Watt. But it's sort of just been part of the Notre Dame offense for the better part of the last decade, just having a couple really, really solid linemen leaning on them. But we also we talked a little bit about the running backs. Let's focus on them a little bit more because Audric Estime had the best game of his career. Just a complete force up the middle. He wasn't dancing around trying to take it to the outside. He was running in between the tackles. And it's just got to be exhausting, man, being a defensive back, trying to tackle that dude just over and over again because he was just running through people. He finished with 17 carries, 134 rushing yards, 7.9 yards per carry, and 2 touchdowns. So it was really encouraging to see him especially just bowling over dudes. And I have to imagine by the end of that game, that entire North Carolina defense was like, get me off the field. Like, I'm done with this dude.
Yeah, he played a great game. It really sucks he fumbled. I wanted him to get another touchdown in there and hit a 50-burger, but whatever. Can't have everything. But yeah, he had a hell of a game.
He did. And you're right, Diggs did have a really good bounce-back game. I was honestly, at the beginning of the game, I was kind of annoyed.
He had one play where I'm like, why is he in the game?
Right, yeah. And then we saw some flashes of what we saw last year. We were like, man, this guy's really talented. He's really patient. And then sure enough, he had that touchdown pass where I think you or I watching the game were closer than any North Carolina defender. That might have been the easiest touchdown we'll ever score. But on that note, how about that OC? That man Tommy Reese in the booth.
Yeah, and I don't care if this offends anybody. If you were one of those fucking morons calling for his job, you're not allowed to celebrate this. You're not. Like, I'm sorry. The amount of stuff that I saw the last couple of weeks calling for Tommy Reese's job was truly insanity. Insanity. And like I said, if you were on that train, then just get off the entire bandwagon. I don't want any part of you. If you're that fickle of a fan, then just piss right off. No, there's probably not an individual who has done more for the Notre Dame football program over the last decade than Tommy Rees. So if you're going to be that guy, then I don't want any part of you. Anyways, that was my rant for today.
Yeah, Tommy Rees was certainly under fire a lot, and some of it I will say was justified. The offense looked so bad, and when you're responsible for that, like you deserve some criticism. But calling for his job was always crazy to us, and I think we doubled down after the Ohio State game. Now I did say that when Notre Dame's competing for the playoff in November, we're gonna have Tommy Rees to thank. I don't think that's gonna be happening anymore, but I still
maybe. Who knows? Kansas is undefeated. It could be a 2-loss team in the playoff. No, I'm kidding. That's not gonna happen.
I was gonna say we're really at that point. No, he called an unbelievable game, and again, this was a North Carolina defense that was terrible, but it was really good to see because it is amazing what he can do when he has a functioning offensive line that can actually block, and a quarterback who can catch the snap and make a throw down the field. And, yeah, he was just carving them up, and it seemed like they made halftime adjustments too, so they took advantage of everything that North Carolina was giving it to them. There's a couple plays that were just so good. The play when Drew Pine had the bootleg right, and then he hit Diggs down the sideline, that was an awesome play design. Something that motion they'd been running earlier, they found a crease in the defense where they just weren't covering the running back on the play action. Hit him there. So it was a really good game. I'm really happy for him. He's been in the news a lot lately for all the wrong reasons. It's been a lot. So I hope that
there were literally accounts on Twitter that were just called Fire Tommy Rees. And it's like, you are truly a pathetic human being. Get a life.
I saw someone in the replies to Pete Sampson, which is admittedly a scary place sometimes.
Well, I was in there this week telling Sampson he needs to resign after saying
I don't
North
get
Carolina.
Yeah, can you expand
it's a
on
joke.
that?
It's a joke, but I just thought his prediction was incredibly they have a better quarterback. Do they? Was Drake May better than Drew Pine yesterday? I don't think so.
Yes. Yes, he was, dude. Would you rather have Drake May or Drew Pine?
He started hot, and then he went 2 of 9.
Would you rather have Drake May or Drew Pine?
That's a different question.
Would you? It's Drake May. Stop.
I would rather have a lot. I would rather have a lot of. I'm not trying to be negative, but I'd rather.
Yeah,
have
I was
a lot
gonna say. I was gonna say. I think Tate Frazier from Titus and Tate. He tweeted at me yesterday and said, "If you guys had Drake May, you'd be competing for the title."
Yeah, probably.
So then don't give me the Drake May Drew Pine stuff. You would take Drew Pine.
I would take Drew Pine. You're right. No.
All right, that's you know what I mean. So wait, so you're calling for Pete Sampson to resign?
Yeah, I think he should. If you're just gonna be like, I don't really know about Notre, it's like you've been covering the team for 20 years. This is a game they win 100 times out of 100. So.
Okay, but to be fair, we did lose to Marshall.
Yeah, but
which is a game Notre Dame should win 100 times out of 100.
Yeah, but this game it felt really different. Like I said, I was pretty levered on it. I wish I was more levered because I just knew there's no way you can't take North Carolina football seriously. And that's kind of where I come from. You could take more is Marshall 2-2.
They lost to Troy. They lost to Troy, dude. I don't think we could just. We were not at the stage a week ago. Now obviously hindsight is 20/20, but you cannot say that 6 days ago we could start just chalking up victories when we're just barely getting by.
No. And I still don't really think that. But against North Carolina, I did. Because, like I said, it's become that game on the schedule. This is going to be a fun one. So.
Yeah, anyway, what I was saying about Pete Sampson is I saw someone in the replies said that Tommy Rees has blood on his hands, and I think it was actually a former Notre Dame leprechaun. That's what his bio said, which is ironic because I'm pretty sure it was the same leprechaun who I actually saw draw blood in New Finney's when he got rocked in the face. But maybe that was the other leprechaun.
What the hell does that even mean? He has blood on his hands?
I don't know. I think he was referring to
I'm gonna find that guy today, and I'm gonna go at him.
I almost wish I didn't say that then now. But yeah, I thought it was a really good game, really good stuff for Notre Dame going forward. Let's get to the defense. So we've been on the offense a lot because just a weird game from the defense perspective because North Carolina only ran 60 plays. And on 56 of those plays, Notre Dame's defense was really, really good. Then there were 4 plays where they were just straight up awful. So North Carolina finishes with 367 total yards. And on 4 plays, they combined for 215. So on the remaining 56 plays, Notre Dame's defense was holding them to 2.7 yards a play. And then the other 4, it's just like, oh my God, what is this? So definitely something to build on. But I thought overall it was still a good performance. I don't know. What did you make of it?
Yeah, I mean, they held him to 66 rushing yards, right? So that's good to see. But yeah, you're right. There were just a couple busts. And maybe it's one of those things where, like, you just play an offense like that. Like, that's just kind of bound to happen. But some of them just felt very avoidable and just kind of like mental mistakes more than anything. So obviously you'd like not to see that. But all in all, I thought they were fine. I still want to see more out of the defensive line. Riley Mills played really well, but I felt like otherwise the defensive line was fairly quiet, and I would have liked to see a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what I thought.
We're recording this on Sunday, so I haven't seen like the snap count, the participation charts. It's going to come out. It seemed like Ben Morrison and Jaden Mickey were on the field either as much or more than Clarence Lewis and Cam Hart. Cam Hart, he made a nice pass breakup earlier in the game, and then in the fourth quarter, he gave up that touchdown late. It looked like they were in cover 2, and then he just let the guy go right behind him. I don't know why Notre Dame would be in cover 2 in that situation when they're in prevent, but I guess the question is, who are the starters at corner going forward out of this bye week?
I think it's still Cam Hart. I think Ben Morrison is. I mean, he has been starting over Clarence Lewis. But I think it's probably Hart and Morrison, to be honest.
Do you think Mickey's ready? Because he played a lot too, and he got.
I don't really mind it. Like, he got picked on a little bit, but he does not appear to be as ready as we may have thought.
Right. Morrison, though, I think he was only targeted twice yesterday, off the top of my head. So it's good to see these guys getting reps. And don't get me wrong,
Prince Collie yesterday too.
Yeah, he almost got a targeting.
Almost got a targeting. Which, by the way, J.D. Bertrand missing another first half of a game. I don't know if that was targeting or not.
It wasn't.
You just can't really put yourself in that position. And it's insane that that's happened 2 games in a row now.
Yeah, targeting in college football is a mess. It's very inconsistent the way they call it. I was shocked that they still ejected him after that. I thought that was weak. But yeah, again, now in total, I mean, I think that targeting happened like 6 minutes into the third quarter. So he missed pretty much the entire game, although he should get credit for the forced fumble on Drake May, the first turnover this season, finally. So that's good. But say what you want about Bertrand and his athleticism, but like, they need Bertrand against BYU. BYU's very physical. That plays way more into his style.
Right. And Bo Bauer didn't really play that much yesterday, right? Like, I felt like I didn't see him at all. I know he's hurt. And so it's just, you obviously want to have a full roster when you can. It didn't really seem like they had that yesterday.
Yeah, BYU's a big physical team, and Bertrand, it just fits more into what he does. And I know he's always under fire, and I get some of it, but I think that he's actually very underrated among the Notre Dame fan base. So that was frustrating. I think it was a weak targeting call. Dan Orlovsky was all over it. He was like, I don't know how this could possibly be a targeting. The play-by-play guy, Bob is his first name. I can't remember his last name. Was choosing, yeah. I think he felt compelled to agree with every call the ref made, and Dan even called him out at one point on the broadcast. I don't know if you heard this, but after North Carolina got that unsportsmanlike penalty for spinning the ball, Dan goes, "You can't possibly agree with that one, Bob, right?" And he did. He goes, "Well, it is the rule." And then Dan was like pissed at him, like, "Oh, you got to be kidding me." But it was a pretty atrocious game by the officials, both sides, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we've really had good refs yet this year, so yeah.
Yeah, and the Notre Dame did get bailed out on that 4th and 1 with Chris Tyree, and then Mac Brown getting the unsportsmanlike or whatever the official ruling was. I mean, it didn't matter.
No.
So I honestly, that was kind of the game. So I don't blame Mac Brown for the way he reacted, but that's not to say that they just called everything in favor of Notre Dame, because they didn't. There was a couple pass interference penalties that
No.
Yeah, so it was just a bad game overall. But going forward, the way that Notre Dame uses their corners is going to be really interesting, because you can give up these big plays to North Carolina in a game where you're sort of dominating, but like that can't happen against USC or Clemson. And Clemson's offense yesterday actually
USC
really
couldn't
solid.
move the ball against Oregon State yesterday. So I don't know. Maybe USC isn't as good as everybody thought they were.
I think it was just their worst game of the season. They still won.
Yeah, they should have lost to a quarterback who threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah, that quarterback was actually the worst quarterback I've ever seen. Imagine Drew Pine for a full game, and that's what it was. Drew Pine against Cal for a full game. Again, sorry. He had a really good game against North Carolina. I do not want that to get lost. But
Aggregate, yeah.
Yeah, that's gonna be the breakout video. No, I think USC played the worst game of the season. They got away with the win. Yesterday was kind of a weird day for some top 10 teams. Oklahoma lost to their kryptonite, Kansas State, who
Adrian Martinez played the game of his career.
yeah, he did. And they showed a graphic during that. It was like Kansas State's record against top 10 teams is like 8-30 something, but 4 of those 8 were against Oklahoma, and now it's 5. So
Yeah.
Michigan kind of had a game with Maryland.
They sucked. It was the first game they played all year. So.
And who else? Kentucky was in a weird game with Northern Illinois. Some top 10 teams. Oh, the weirdest one by far was Georgia-Kent State.
Yeah.
The Kent State Golden Flashes, they never really threatened to win, but they were in that game. So, yeah, I don't really know what to make of it, but I think Notre Dame's secondary, they need to get that tightened up in a big way because even BYU has some deep threats too. So that has to be figured out. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good performance considering the talent they were going up against. And honestly, their performance against Ohio State actually looks even better now because Ohio State just absolutely put it on Wisconsin. That game was over after the first quarter.
Yeah, Graham Mertz sucks balls.
Yeah, Graham Mertz is also
he's bad.
He's so bad. All right, before we wrap up here, game balls. Who do you got?
I think it's pretty easy here. It's Michael Mayer. I think he had 7 catches for 80-something yards and a touchdown. It could have been another touchdown. He makes things a lot easier for Drew Pine, who did have a good game yesterday, but he's just got to be such a, I don't know, comforting figure for Drew Pine to have out there. So and I really enjoy watching him. I said this yesterday. He's truly one of the few day one to end one contributors we've ever had. I think Michael Floyd's on that list. I think I don't even really know who else is on that list. I mean, I haven't really thought about it. Yeah. Yeah. And there aren't a lot of people on that list. But that was Notre Dame's 25th straight regular season win against an ACC opponent. Last time we lost an ACC team in the regular season was that god-awful night in Hard Rock Stadium. So wow. We do still have one streak alive. Yeah.
Damn, that seems like an eternity ago. I'm actually disappointed you brought that up.
It was almost 5 full years ago.
I'm giving mine. This is like a shared one. Drew Pine and Tommy Rees, because Tommy Rees just absolutely diced him up. And Drew Pine, give him credit, he executed, and he looked way more comfortable and confident, and it's really, really encouraging to see because I'm not going to lie, going into it, I was like, man, what are we going to do? Like, I know I said it before, I honestly thought, is Notre Dame going to have to shift to the wing T or the triple option by November? Now, we know that the wing T doesn't lose in November. However, right. I would prefer that my D1 college football team not be running the wing T.
Yeah, I guess that's not a problem anymore. We're not running the triple option or the wing T with Ron Powlus III, so it'll be okay.
All right, you got any final thoughts in North Carolina before we wrap this up?
Nope. I almost wish there wasn't a bye. We just play again, but it is what it is.
It could go back and forth on that one because on one hand, it's like, all right, now Notre Dame gets another week to really prepare with Drew Pine going forward. But that'll do it for this episode of Sons of Saturday Irish. Thank you guys for watching or listening wherever you are. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't already and give us a follow at Sons of Sat Irish on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. As we mentioned, Notre Dame has a bye this week, so we'll release our preview episode for the BYU game at this time next week. So until then, we'll talk to you soon.